What is the dumbest thing you've ever heard somebody say? My college roommate's girlfriend was terribly afraid of turtles. The reason? She believed that if they bit you, they could never open their mouth again, and that you'd be forced to live your life with a turtle attached to you. I'm completely serious. Do you have a large pizza, but in smaller sizes? There is a famous story, well in the UK, attributed to Jason McAteer, a football player in the 90s. He orders a pizza and the waitress asks if he'd like it sliced into 6 or 8 pieces. He replies 6. I don't think I could manage 8. This is told widely amongst football fans, but I'm unsure if it's an urban legend or not. Swimming in the Caribbean with friends. Are we at sea level? Unfortunately I can't blame this on someone else. Asked a park ranger what elevation the snow started so we could decide which hike to do. He looks out the window and says, well, if you look outside the window you'll notice that there's about 6 inches of snow on the ground here, and then just stared at me like I was a complete moron. Not my best moment. I run a camp for students who have had court involvement in Detroit. We had a female camper who was pregnant and she would constantly use her pregnancy as an excuse not to do things. One day, we were at the waterfront and she says, I can't stay out here with all these bugs. My mama told me if I swallow a fly, my baby is gonna turn into a magnet. Sick. I ran the sentence over in my head, and even if she had said maggot like I am sure she meant, it still does not make a lick of sense. I was at a restaurant with a few friends and this awkward teenage couple sits down at the table next to us. You can tell they are on their first date and the guy is visibly nervous and the girl looks like she feels a little awkward as well. They sit in silence for at least 2 whole minutes until the guy laughs and says, hey, wouldn't it be weird if you ate your phone? The girl just stares at him and replies, yeah. More silence. In high school, our teacher told us that cleaning blood-stained areas with bleach will kill the AIDS virus. This prompted one of our bright and shining star students, sarcasm, to put 2 and 2 together and loudly proclaimed if we inject ourselves with bleach, we won't have AIDS. Proceeded to jump out of her seat, run down the hall proclaiming I found the cure for AIDS. Facepalm all around. This girl I know said, I'm going to dye my hair red, so when I have kids their hair will be red too. In college, I was in a car accident with a 16-year-old girl. We were on a parkway and I had just merged into the far right hand lane, which was a turn only lane. She was all the way over in the far left lane, which was 2 lanes over from me. Suddenly, she cut across the lane separating us and rammed into my driver's side door. We pulled over, ensured that we were both okay, assessed the damages and called the police. The police officer was asking for both of our explanations. He turned to her first and asked, what happened? She said, well, I looked over my left shoulder and I didn't see anyone, so I went. The police officer stopped writing for a moment and said, wait, you looked over your left shoulder, didn't see anyone, so you cut across 2 lanes of traffic on your right? She answered with a straight face, yes, sir. He just wrote it down as she said it, but you could see the question marks forming above his head. Pharmacist friend of mine, makes a 6-figure salary, thought the moon and the sun were the same thing until late last year. I didn't know if she was serious. She was. Fire drill in high school. It was the middle of winter. On the way back inside when drill was over, some guy says, why did we have a fire drill? It's too cold for there to be a fire. My dad actually said this when we were discussing slavery. Maybe slavery was good for them. Africans had no direction in life before that. Tell that to a black person, dad. Tell that to a black person. Dude I know showed up at my house one day when a few guys were hanging out and told us he was hit by a car. When we asked him what happened, he went on to say that a parked car that was poking out of its driveway onto the sidewalk had hit him. Despite our best efforts, we could not get him to grasp his head around the fact that he walked into a parked car. My grandpa was notorious for saying things without thinking and was always generally just trying to piss everyone off around him. One summer I was at his house swimming in his swimming pool in the backyard. He saw me jump off the diving board into the pool and I guess he found it inappropriate and yelled at me, "Goddamn it boy, you know that diving board ain't meant to be jumped off of." Pointing to a picture of Che Guevara, I asked my mate, who is that? Knowing full well he was probably going to give a dumb answer. Nothing could prepare me though. In as serious a tone as is possible he replied, "Adolf Hitler." I've got 2. Same person. Girl in her mid-20s. Hurry WW. The pig has teeth. Me well yeah. How'd you expect it to eat? Her I thought they just smelt things and that's how they ate. While watching how it's made. They are making wooden kayaks. Her that won't float. Wood sinks. Me what do you think boats were made of 300 years ago? Her I dunno. I used to live in a share house. The guy who lived on the bottom floor had his own bathroom. One day I happened to look in his bathroom and saw that the toilet was caked in a layer of brown scum. Inside and outside the bowl. I asked him if he was going to clean it and he replied, as if I was an idiot. No way man. It's too gross. I used to work at a convenience store while in undergrad and we had a new employee we had to train. This fat woman was probably between 25 and 30 years old and had about 4 or 5 kids by different fathers. Our supervisor wanted us to show her the ropes, but before she left she said, I want her glued to this register all day so it would allow her to get familiar with the register. Well, the day goes by, and we have our closing duties where we have to put beans out for the newspaper, throw out the garbage, sweep, etc. Before we close the store at midnight, I ask her, hey, you wanna help us out? In a very friendly, non-sarcastic way. She says, no. I asked her, are you serious? She says, supervisor said I have to be glued to the register and that's all I have to do. I just looked at her and said, you can't be this stupid. I told her, yes. She said that, but you still have to help out. She simply restates she was told to stay at the register. This goes on for a bit, where I try to show her the error in her ways in a loud fashion. We ended up calling the supervisor, and she clarified the situation to the new employee that she wanted her to focus on the register, but she still had to help out around the store. It was still part of her job. She just huffed and puffed on the phone, hung up, and helped us close a store. I couldn't believe that someone this much older than me acted like a 5th grader and was responsible for the lives of children. Not my story, but still my favorite. In high school, my friend was going to an R-rated movie with his girlfriend who had just turned 17. She was asked for her ID and said she didn't have it, so they went to a different movie. Later, she had her wallet out and he saw her driver's license in it. He said, I thought you didn't have your ID. She said, that's my old license. I was only 16 on that one. I got a good one for you. While I was in college, I worked as a shift supervisor at Wendy's. It was lame and page tie, but the schedule worked with my school schedule. Anyways, so it was my job to put everyone in their stations and make sure that the various time-sensitive duties got performed at the necessary times, like cleaning the fryer several times a night for yummy golden fries. My manager had hired a trio of guys who were on the ankle bracelet program. They were on probation for something. He had done this before. Those ankle bracelet guys never made it past a month. So, I have one of them stationed at the grill. At night, when the dining room closes, you have a limited number of people and the grill guy takes on fry duty, so he's standing there staring into the fryer, just staring at it. I notice this and see he's watching lone fry that had gotten dropped left in there sizzling in the oil and spinning, but he was pretty intent on watching this thing. So I asked him if he was okay and he kinda snapped out of it, like he was spacing out. 10 minutes later, I see him doing the same thing, but watching the meat cook on the grill. Again, spaced the F out, so I called out to him, hey Derek, what you doing over there buddy? He turns in to look at me and in a very serious tone, says I'm getting ready to start thinking about flipping the meat. Laughing, I jokingly asked him if he was on drugs. He goes, yeah dude, I took acid before work. I was a good guy and let him go home early, with a cheeseburger and a Frosty no less. A couple of my friends, who were all in college, were browsing at a Barnes Noble and one of them was looking at a display that had military type books on it. He was looking through them and saw books about the Air Force, Navy, Marines, etc. Then in a pretty idiotic moment he saw a book on submarines, and thinking it was some branch that was beneath the Marines, submarines, that he had never heard of, a grown 20-year-old man yelled across the store, hey, what's a submarine? He will never live this down. I didn't hear this, but my brother told me his friend said it after the 9/11 attacks. Why didn't we just warn them? My brother asked him what he meant. He was referring to the time difference between the East Coast us and Ireland. He thought that the US was literally 5 hours behind us and that while we were watching the attacks on TV, they hadn't actually happened over there yet. This kid was 15. My friend is really intelligent but a complete ditz. We make fun of her all the time, in a very loving way, because of all the silly things she comes out with without thinking. Some of my favorites being, isn't it amazing how many different kinds of light bulb there are, and how dead was the body? She surpassed herself last week though. We were talking about a fish she had when she was younger that she accidentally killed. Genuine accident. She was moving her guppy's babies into a nursing box in the tank and didn't realize her angel fish was trapped between the box and the side of the tank until it was too late because her arm was in the way and was really upset about. Then she brightened, turned to me, and said in absolute seriousness, "But it's okay because fish have got really short memories, haven't they? So it probably doesn't even remember me killing it now." When I was in high school, I owned a Black Death tour shirt. It is a joke shirt that makes the plague look like a metal band. One night I wore it and went to eat at Burger King where these two girls were working the counter and asked me about my shirt. I explained that it was about the plague, which they had no idea what I was talking about. I tried to explain further, trying to dumb it down as much as possible, until one of the girls had a light bulb moment and summed it up for her friends. So there was this guy hundreds of years ago that was killing people, and he has come back and is giving people AIDS. Working as a bartender, I once served a guy a pint of draft beer. He took it back to the table, and then immediately brought it back to me for a replacement. The reason? There were bubbles forming at the bottom of the pint glass and slowly drifting upwards through the beer. He also complained about the second pint I gave him. For the exact same reason, he did not get a third. I'm taking entry-level biology to get prereqs for PT school. Yesterday was the first day of class and our biology teacher doesn't seem to accept the theory of evolution by natural selection. For some reason, on the first day of class, he thought he'd give a brief lesson on the Big Bang. There was this exchange. Him. Who's that guy in the wheelchair? Stephen Hawkins. Me. Hawkeye. ING. Him. No. Not Richard Dawkins. Don't get me started on him.